Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Deserted Fear, Doomsday, out March 4th on Century Media Records. The album has 11 tracks, 41 minutes in length, and this is the band's fifth full-length studio album. They are a German melodic death metal band. As far as the design is concerned, I'm not a fan of this record. I don't like how they built this album. This is a record that feels very clunky. There's no sense of fluidity or continuity from track to track. You have to pause, reset, and readjust song in and song out. And then you have a couple of tracks that don't add any value to the experience. They don't make the record more dynamic, they don't make the record more fluid, they definitely don't make the record more engaging. I'm talking specifically about the intro and the interlude at its end. Songs like these are normally built, designed with the purpose of kickstarting the first half of the record and then kickstarting the second half of the album, dividing the record into two, but give you a starting point on both sides that allows you to understand exactly what you're going to get yourself into. These songs normally build towards a climax, and the climax is the song that follows. In this case, that doesn't happen. Initially, you feel like the songs are taking you somewhere, but you start to realize that actually they're not taking you anywhere at all, because they don't continue into the following track. There's a break there. And because of that break, you start early on in the record to feel a sense of disconnect from track to track that gives you that overall sensation of a clunky album. An album that's built around 11 singles, not necessarily around creating an album as a whole. And that obviously has a fluidity impact and has a playability impact all around. Once again, specifically if you're going with the traditional sense of starting in the first song and working your way all the way through. Now, this design, this structure, this sensation that you get from the record is not caused just by how the album is designed or just how by the album is put together. The soundscape obviously has an impact in it, because the two are intertwined. And this is where things get interesting, because sound-wise, this album is phenomenal. I like the warmth that the sound has. I like how it feels. I like the texture that it has. But most importantly, I like the depth. This is not an album that sounds flat. It sounds rich. It has volume, like I said, and that volume has something in it. Very important in order to create a substantial experience for the listener where you feel like you're getting something from the album. You're not just getting sound, you're getting sound that vibrates within you. This album has a lot of that. It's a record that is heavy, but it's not brutal. It's melodic, but not over melodic. It doesn't really define exactly what it's going to give you, and it becomes very hard to define it the more that you're listening to it, because the experiences, while having a lot of similarities in terms of how the sound is put together, they really give you different sensations from track to track. So it's an album that keeps you in limbo. I like the sound quality. I don't necessarily like the idea that I don't know where I'm going with it. But the sound quality is phenomenal from start to finish. The drums play a huge role in that quality, because a lot of the warmth, a lot of the depth that the sound has comes from the drums. Not overpowering the experience, not taking control of this record, being heavy, being consistent, giving you ebbs and flows, but always being in the backdrop in order to create the foundation that allows the guitars to be a little bit more dynamic. Because once you move into the guitars have two separate paths. Sometimes these paths intertwine, sometimes they don't. On one side you have the melodic approach that the guitars have, and on the other side you have a thicker, a chunkier sound that has a lot of thrash metal influences into it. Now on the melodic side, it never really goes overly melodic. It walks a fine line. It brings melody in, but that melody also has some heaviness into it. It also has some volume into it. On the other side, you have that chunkier approach, that thrash metal influence that once again brings some heaviness to the table, but it also brings a little bit more of a drive to how these songs progress. Now, these two approaches intertwine, work in parallel, and allow the songs to have a little bit of movement within themselves, but that movement is really not pushing the tracks from one into the other, and that's going back into that clunkiness approach with the overall design. But I like how the guitars worked. I like how they found these parallels and how they were able to coexist within these two worlds without really having to pick one or the other to be the consistent driver of the overall guitar sound. Now, once it gets into the vocals are consistent. What you get at the beginning of the album, it's going to be what you're going to get all the way through. There are some nuances. There are definitely nuances depending on the chorus, depending on the verses, depending on the lyrical content of each and every single song. But those nuances are nothing more than just that. little ripples. They don't really change how you perceive the tracks. They don't have an incredible impact on the overall sound experience or the overall atmosphere of the record. They just create these little ripples that make you feel like the track within itself has a little bit more movement. It's pulling you perhaps in a few different directions, but staying very consistent. And the consistency that you're going to get out of the vocals is one that provides heaviness to the album. And it also provides a lot of darkness, because the tone gives darkness to this record. Now, the heaviness that you get out of the vocals, it's really important, because while the drums change motions ever so slightly within songs and from song to song, while the guitars have these two parallel universes that they're working on, you need something that holds these tracks at least together, or gives the album the minimum sense of being one, and that is that consistency of heaviness and darkness coming from the vocals. That is a little bit what makes this album at least feel like a full-length record and not just a compilation. All around, this album has quality, but it's not phenomenal, it's not memorable. It's an album that maybe it's easier to digest on a song-by-song basis. If you break down this record and you're listening to a track, I really feel like you're going to enjoy the song for what it gives you. In the context of the album, it becomes a lot harder to tell the forest from the trees, and it becomes a lot harder to find a sense of path and a sense of purpose with it. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Idols of Triumph. Melodic, thick guitar sound, that is the approach from start all the way to the finish. The drums enhance that experience. They really bring those guitars into the forefront, giving them almost a platform. The vocals add a lot of heaviness and consistency. Consistency in the heaviness and consistency in the approach. The chorus musically is definitely more melodic, but it doesn't change that much. It's not like there's a complete clear cut or an abrupt cut from what you're getting in the verses in terms of what you're going to get in the chorus. It's a smooth transition. This makes the track feel a lot more linear, a lot flatter from start all the way to the end. It also gives the song a little bit more of a melancholic atmosphere to it. The melody itself also brings a little bit of a melancholic drive in terms of how you're going to perceive this song, which slows down the song. It makes the track feel a lot slower, a lot more methodic. Next, you have Call of Emptiness. This track has bigger sound, bigger presence, more power, more heaviness, still weaving the melody into the track, still moving the heaviness around with it. The drums have a bigger pop in terms of how this song comes across. You definitely feel it. The song has more strength in the drums. They kickstart the track and they keep pumping energy into it. The guitars are heavy, melodic. They have a little bit more of an undefined role in terms of how they transport the listener. The vocals still very balanced, but all around, this is a more engaging, more dynamic song. A song that comes in the second half of the album, which all around is a stronger second half than the first half. I actually felt like the album got stronger with each and every passing song. The better tracks, in my opinion, are coming at the end. And my favorite one of them all is Doomsday. This is the last track on the record. I love this song. It's my favorite track. It has a little bit of an Amon Amarth vibe, not just in the soundscape that it offers, not just in how they combine melody and heaviness, but also in the overall way in which the song is structured, in which the song is designed. It has great flow, great melody. Melody and heaviness are one. It's not like you hear one here and one over there. No, the two are intertwined from start to finish. It has the hookiest, catchiest chorus in the entire record, musically and vocally. It's simple, easy to understand, easy to latch on. The melody that it has behind it elevates it even more, making it even more hooky, even more catchy. I love this song. It's an exclamation point at the end of the record. Best track on the album. This is it. Deserted Fear, Doomsday, out March 4th on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.